So we'll be doing lesson 3-2 today. 3-2 is talking about rational numbers. This lesson is a lot of vocab words. So if we see down here, we have our number categories. So we're going to go through what some of them are. Okay, so when you first learned to count using the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, etc., etc., you were using members of the set of natural numbers. And we abbreviate that with a capital N. So your counting numbers are called your natural numbers. If you add 0 to the set of natural numbers, the result of the set is our whole numbers, which we abbreviate with a W. So your whole numbers are your natural numbers and 0. Next up, whole numbers and their opposites make up the set of integers. We should already know that from last chapter. Integers is abbreviated with a Z. So that's our -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, 3, etc., etc. So whole numbers and their opposites, that's our integers. Any number that can be written in the form A over B, where A and B are integers and B is not 0, is part of the set of rational numbers. So rational numbers, abbreviated with a Q, would be our numbers so any number that can be written as a fraction. Try to squeeze that in here. That's your rational numbers. Any number that can be written as a fraction. And then decimals that neither terminate nor repeat are called irrational numbers. So if you're not rational, you are irrational. A great example of this would be pi. If you don't know pi, we'll be talking about pi later in the year when we talk about circles. But pi is the most common example of irrational numbers. Okay, so vocab here, we have our natural numbers, we have our whole numbers, we have our integers, we have our rational numbers, and our irrational numbers. Now when you're given a number, we're going to ask you to classify it. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. We want to identify all sets of numbers to which 2.55 belongs. The sets are real, rational, irrational, integers, whole, and natural. Okay, so first thing we notice is we have a decimal. Well, if we have a decimal, it cannot be natural, whole, or an integer. So now we want to decide if it's rational or irrational. Well, can 2.55 be written as a fraction? Okay, well the 2 would stay a 2. 0.55, if we think about how we would say that, we would say 55 hundredths. So 55 over 100. Now that's not in simplest form, but we just wanted to see if we could write it as a fraction. We can, we just did. And since we can write it as a fraction, that means that it is rational. And if it's rational, it can't be irrational. It can never be rational and irrational. And then at this point, all the numbers that we're talking about are real. So we also want to list it as real. Okay, so there's an example of classifying. We'll do a lot more practice with that. And our last problem for this lesson, 1 gallon of water is equivalent to 8.34 pounds. Write this value as a mixed number in simplest form. So if we bring down 8.34, well, just like up here, we want to think about how do we say this? We would say 8 and 34 hundredths. So 8 and 34 over 100. Okay, so we have it as a mixed number, but we want it in simplest form. So simplest form, meaning it's in a mixed number, not an improper fraction, and we can't divide our numerator and our denominator by anything. Well, they're both even, so we know we're not simplest form. So if we do each divided by 2, we'd end up with 8 and 17 fiftieths. And we want to think, can anything be divided into 17 and 50? Well, 17's prime, so no. So there we go, 8 and 17 fiftieths. All right, guys, that is lesson 2.